they said they can't, so.
Angie Bittner had said anything, but ICRC, are you guys seeing anything? Any of the chat questions or anything?
Let me give you a second, that's what I'm trying to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I just got a text from Kim Cremines from the Business Association asking if council has started.
Yeah, I think now we're live. Kim just said the video just came up. All right, now we're good.
Okay, I'd like to repeat, we're in the public input section. We are live now, and if anybody has any questions, they can. Mayor, how does that work again?
They can go to the ICRC link, and then on YouTube, you can actually comment in the chat, and Bill is live to read those questions to council.
So I just have asked, so if we can just give it maybe a few more seconds here.
Sure.
Read those questions. Yeah, now it's showing up on mine.
Yeah. Not seeing anything, Ross. I think we could probably move on, and then if something
We'll
does
jump
come
back.
up, we can always
Yeah,
come
we'll
back.
jump back to any
Yeah.
that come in. Okay, committee reports. Business Partnership and the Alliance, Ms. Peterson.
Okay. I did attend the Business Association meeting. They did it via Zoom again. Just a few members showed up, so there really wasn't much business discussed. One of the issues they brought up was about trash cans. Whether, I know one business person said that they used to have a trash can in front of their place. It's now gone. They were thinking about either getting them or see if the city could possibly get some trash cans. Kim wasn't sure how much they cost, but that was one of the big issues. They were saying they're trying to get the trash cans. And they thought like even at the bus stops, if they could have them put there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if she had said anything to you, Bill, or not yet.
I have heard not. I have not.
So that
We
was-
move them around to pay, our guys are the ones that empty them. And a lot of times if they come to us and say, there's never any garbage in that, we'll move them around. They are quite expensive, but that's not,
Right.
upwards of $300 or $400, believe it or not, for some of those. But,
Yeah.
if there's a specific area where there's an issue, they should let us know. And then if we have an extra can, we could also move it there as well.
Okay. Okay. That was pretty much, all that they just discussed, various other items, but nothing that they could take any action on. The Mount Healthy Alliance, in July, they served 264 families. I think it was up just a little bit from what it had been. But their fall campaign is coming up. So at the Stone Creek Mire, for the Fall Simply Give campaign, it's going to run from August 23rd to September 26th. And then Friday, September 11, and Saturday, September 12 are the double match days. If the customer donates, it doubles whatever they donate. So they just wanted to make people aware, so if they can go to Myers and buy one of the Simply Give cards and raise some money for the Alliance. Okay. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Judy. Beautification is Ms. Moody. Does anybody else have any kind of report for her? All right. Finance, Mr. Parsons.
The Finance Committee just had a meeting before this meeting to go over the financial statements from July. We had some questions and issues regarding revenues and expenses. We are down, and we will be down for the year on income tax collections. Several of us disagree on how much. It's anywhere from maybe $100,000 to $150,000 for the year. But on the good side, we've got some revenues that we didn't expect, and some of the other sources are coming in higher than budgeted, so we won't be hurt too bad in total. Hopefully, the income tax collections will pick up. On the expense side, the city has done a good job, all the department heads have done a good job of cutting their costs as much as possible. We did have to replace a police car that was wrecked last year and had been ordered before we did the cost cutting. We're still down a police car right now, but we're not going to replace that until things get better. The police salaries are higher than expected because we hired a lot of full-time officers early in the year. Part-time officers early in the year. Had to get them trained, but on the other hand, our overtime for the police department is down considerably, so that'll offset some of that increased expense. Overall, we're looking pretty good. We may end up for the whole year having a few more expenses than revenues, but we've got enough carryover coming into the year to handle that easily. We will get together in October, November, work on a budget for next year. I will again look at the financials, especially at the end of September, and see if there's anything that looks out of line that I need to comment on or question Mr. Coker about. I think that's about all I have for now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Parsons. I'd like to personally thank the committee, Finance Committee, and the administration for doing a fine job during these tough times, unknowing times, what's going to happen with our budget, so thank you. Parks, Ms. Lingo.
I don't have a report, but I think we have, 3 more concerts scheduled for this summer, so.
Streets and Safety, Mr. Redding.
Yeah, a few items. I don't know if anybody had a chance to read the police department report, but we also talked about it in finance. We got a community policing grant, was awarded to us $250,000, correct? That's over a 3-year period, declining. So we have an opportunity to potentially hire a couple new full-timers. And I'm kind of working this backwards here. There will be a test August 26th for police. And Bill, I didn't ask you in the Finance Committee meeting, but do we have a number yet on how many sitting for that?
The last count I saw was over 30, which is better than what we've had in the past.
That's really good. I think the last time we only had like 7 or 10.
Well, we had in the teens one time, I think was our lowest, yeah.
So that's good news. So
Just to clarify, so we're down a full-time, we had an officer resign, full-time
Right.
officer resign in July. So that spurred the test, because the old one had expired, elapsed. But then at the same time, we know we're going to have the COPS grant coming in place. But to one of the points in finance was, in order to add the additional officers for the COPS grant, we'll have to expand our ordinance that sets the number of full-timers in the police department. So that will be something that we'll get in September or October
Yeah.
to get that on board. And then once the funds are released, then we'll look to add those 2 new officers. And their primary focus will be schools and domestic violence, and we'll work in those things. So, sorry, Joe.
Yep. No. I failed to mention that. Those are good points. And in fact, if you look at domestic disputes for the month of July, there were 34. So,
That's a lot.
so it looks like we're trending up a little bit. So, may be perfect timing. So I know I'm obviously not talking from experience, but secondhand from talking with other police officers. Domestic disputes can be a very emotional charged kind of issue that the police go to. So, anything we can do there to minimize those would be great. And then we did receive, Bill, I'm just going to take these one at a time here. In our packets, we received from Lucas Braun about fixing curbs on Hamilton Avenue, Hamilton and Kenny and Compton and McMacken and Adams, and they're recommending to work on those between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. I'm assuming that's all good to go, and
Well, no, that's why I had it in my agenda, but that's something that I wanted to talk about. And just to kind of clarify, that's part of the Safer Routes to School grant.
Yes.
So it's 100% funded. Some of those we had addressed, but to meet state specifications, they want to do some modifications, some complete redos. And that's a good thing because the next, we're in line with the urban pavement project for Hamilton Avenue, which will redo Hamilton Avenue, Corp line to Corp line. The grind and overlay is covered at 80% on their part. We have to pay for the concrete work. So it's good to get these things addressed ahead of that. So that's two things. There's also another project that's going along with that, and that's continuing the sidewalks on Compton, West Compton on the north side. There's a pretty good section that doesn't have sidewalks, so I think that'll finish it pretty much in Mount Healthy, where we had voids there. So that's two
Yep,
things that's
on
going
it.
on with that. Yeah.
Yep.
So no, I mean, I guess I think on the surface that sounds good, but there are people that do live in the uptown area, but they think the impact is going to be less on traffic and so forth. That's why they requested to do that. So I said, well, let me throw it out to council. We can discuss it if there's strong feelings one way or the other. I'll get back with you, but if not, let's plan on doing it at night. So
yeah, I mean, it's Hamilton Avenue, and it's,
Right.
It's extremely crowded, especially during
Right.
rush hour. So,
right.
yeah, I mean, when I read it over the weekend,
Right, I mean, Adams is one, there's not a lot of residential, but even one block over, I got a lot of complaints when when there's plates on the road and things like that. But, I mean, these aren't major, they're not gonna be jackhammering all night. They might have to take out some curb, hopefully they start that early. A lot of it's gonna be pouring and different things, so it shouldn't be, a huge, all-night kind of clamoring.
was there any mention with some of the curb work about any of our curb cuts being out of ADA compliance?
That's
or-
what this is doing.
That's what, this is
Yeah.
fixing all that too?
Yes,
So,
exactly.
okay.
I mean, where they can, there's a few exceptions where, like for example, on McMacken here on the southwest side in front of the Tomco building, and that building sits so close. Sometimes you can't meet if a building is sitting so close and it can't meet the requirements, then they can modify it. But yeah, that will get everything in compliance with as far as the state's concerned. So those intersections will surely be good when we start the urban paving project.
Okay, perfect. And that kind of leads into, we got a new street priority list from Greg.
Yeah.
And there was actually, so I'm just going to skip down to where the,
Cool. I mean, this is all going to be covered in my report. And
okay, great.
Right. Because we got a new one too, and I want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Okay, and then you're going to cover Fred Schlimm's email? Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yep.
all right. Then that is all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Questions? Okay, schools, Mr. Cordell George.
Few things to mention. Recently, the school district has decided that for the first 5 weeks at least, it'll be completely remote learning. In addition, it was decided last night that they will let fall sports go on just limited seasons as far as the games and probably many other restrictions as well. But so from my last report, I said it would be 60% going to school and about 40% remote, but they've recently decided that it'll be completely remote for at least the first 5 weeks. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
Question.
Yeah,
Couple
Bob.
of questions. Mr. George, when does school start?
Thursday, well, so Thursday, they start orientation days. Every family had to go online and sign up for an hour-long session where they go in personally to get their Chromebooks and their supplies and their schedules. And there are introductory lessons up until after Labor Day. Then Tuesday after Labor Day is when actual courses start,
Even online?
online.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you know when the Hamilton County School starts, the
The one on the corner?
one at the corner?
Or no, it's not that anymore.
Or are they going to be on, they're not going to be online, are they?
I don't know.
Okay.
I do not know.
What is the police going to be doing about right turn on red except school days?
Good question.
That's more
Right.
for,
That's a good question. I don't know.
if-
I mean, if there's any kids going to school, then they'll be enforcing it.
Okay,
Right?
okay.
Because it's a, it is a,
So I know we're busing to Catholic and private schools that are in session. So, for example, Our Lady of Grace, John Paul II, St. John, Dry Ridge, we do have buses too. And those are starting as soon as Thursday. So I don't know,
the kids have to walk to a certain location to get the
Yes.
bus?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's different bus stops,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so they come through and pick them up. It's not like they all have to be at the high school or
No,
South
they come
Elementary?
through and pick them
Okay,
up in the neighborhoods.
got it.
Well, I guess the police chief should
Yeah.
look into how he's going to enforce that then.
Good
Okay,
question.
thank you.
Question, Bob.
Yeah.
Because the driver doesn't know when the schools are in session, when students are there,
Right.
and we don't want to
True.
put the children in harm's way by saying, oh, gee, you don't have to stop, you can turn on red. So, yeah, that's a good question.
Right.
Okay, library, Ms. Dosa.
I am pleased to announce that the library did open for curbside service on August 3rd. And after talking to the branch manager, she said that it's going very well. People are coming in to pick up materials and holds that they've gotten online and browse the shelving. People have been able to come in and fax and print and copy. But there is a plan in place to open the doors soon, but not yet. And from what we discussed, when they do open, it will have a capacity of 5 people at a time with a 1-hour time limit. So once she has that date, she'll let me know, but that is coming soon. They're just preparing the library for that function, for people to be able to come in. But they're still open, the staff is still available by phone. You can make up times for one-on-one appointments via phone, via Zoom. You can email them to do chats, and they're available for that to help you. And they do still have programming online, she said, that people can go on and use for the kids that are home still. But with school starting, I don't know if that's going to change. But she did say that they are looking to reach out to the local schools to offer resources once school is back up and running and open for students to be in the classroom. They just don't know in what capacity that will be. But they want to try to support the teachers right now, and they're going to reach out to them and see what ways that they think the library can help them with doing that, especially with the remote learning. And that is all that I have to report.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dosa. Questions? Okay, Denise, Urban Tree.
No report.
Okay. We Thrive, Jenny Moody. No.
I can
Mayor?
take that.
Well, you
Yeah.
want to do it now, or you want to do it late, during your report? Doesn't matter, because you're
Yeah,
next
I'm
anyway.
next, so I guess I'll just start, yeah. So with We Thrive, we did the change tool. We do this every 2 years. This is where we have community members, stakeholders, residents meet and go through many different things. About a 2-hour meeting, there's a bunch of questions, and we have to rank whether or not our city has a policy to address it, and then whether or not it's actually being addressed. So there's some things where the city might not have a policy, because we might not need it, but it is being addressed, right? So we rank them that way. There's other things where we might have the policy, but we really haven't done anything with it yet. So we go through and look at all the different options, and as a group come to a consensus on all the rankings, and I can share that once it's all collected. And then we use that to plan our goals for the next 2 years. So it's really a needs assessment. So that was done. It's always the longest meeting every 2 years. But that was done on the 28th, so right after our last meeting. So I'll get that out once it's all collected, and then we'll use that to build on the goals for the next 2 years. I also, I met Cindy Sheets, who often comes to our council meetings. She lives on Hickman. She invited me just to meet with some of her neighbors in the backyard, and it was great. There were about 7 of them there, and you know, the question about whether or not Hickman was going to be paved has been bouncing around to them for years, and we've told them it was, and it wasn't, it wasn't, because we know funding has been approved and then put on hold, et cetera. So it was nice to be able to actually sit down and explain the whole process to a group of neighbors. So, and they asked some other good questions. They have some MSD issues down there with sewage and a few other concerns they have. But I just want to bring it up really because I honestly thought that was the best opportunities that I had to sit down and just talk to people. And if any other residents want to do that, like get a group of neighbors together and have me over, we can meet up here, I don't care where. I'm more than willing to meet with small groups like that. I thought it was really a great opportunity, and I'd encourage anyone to do that. So if anyone wants to organize a group, feel free to reach out to me and we'll do that. Another thing, just a quick announcement, the Mount Healthy Haunted Hall, which runs at the Knights of Columbus Hall. It's a really big event, brings in tens of thousands of dollars every year. Unfortunately, it's going to be canceled this year. I was at the meeting where it was discussed, and it was interesting because I texted the county health commissioner, and there's no guidelines from Ohio about haunted houses. So all the entertainment guidelines are broke down very specifically, and there's nothing for haunted houses. So he was thankful that I brought it up because it's on their radar now. So unfortunately, it does exceed the 10, person gathering requirement. So they're not going to have it, but they are hoping, we have to get approval from the county again, they're hoping to do like a trunk or treat type of night, and they'll have the tunnel open, which if you've ever been through it, they have a tunnel that spins and it looks like stars. It's really cool. So they want to be able to allow kids to come up and do a trunk or treat and walk through in a socially distant way. We'll see if they're allowed. That might exceed the limit as well. But I bring it up partially because there are a lot of businesses and nonprofits out there that run events that are not covered right now under the guidelines. So it is a very confusing time. And if there's any other groups out there that run events and they need help trying to connect to figure out guidance, I'm more than willing to make that connection for them. But unfortunately, they're closed. So next year, they'll be back open. And then the last thing I bring up, I don't know if the Streets and Safety Committee wants to pick this up. Jenny has had some complaints from several business owners, and I know she brought it up at council, about people parking long-term in front of their businesses. Parking in front of a retail business and staying there for 8 hours while they're at work, and then it's, taking away street parking from customers. It's a really tough issue, obviously, because they're public streets, anybody can park there. But you do understand the need for these businesses. Now, I just was contacted this week by Mary Gearman. Little Dutch is very frustrated right now because they have people parking right in front of Little Dutch for hours on end, 2, 3, 4 hours, sometimes the entire day as they work. And especially with Little Dutch, one of her concerns is she has some patrons that won't come in if they can't park out front. Because they're handicapped or older, et cetera. So she asked me, and I said I would bring it to start discussing at council. 2 things. She asked if we could do like a 15-minute limit. And number 2, she asked if we could get a handicap sign up there. There is a handicap sign on the other side of the street, but I don't believe there's one on her side of the street. So that's something we might want to consider as well. I'm more than willing to, Bill hasn't heard of this yet, so I'm more than willing to sit with Bill and talk to him and work on ways to address this, or if the Safety and Streets Committee or council has any strong opinions, I'm more than willing to let somebody else work with it. My initial thought, I think a 15-minute time limit makes sense, but I don't know how we enforce that. The only way to enforce it is if we brought in some company to put in meters and run it for profit, like is quite often done these days, which I don't know if that'll make people happy. running into the library and having to pay. I don't know if people would be happy about that. So I'm willing to either just talk to, Bill and I talk and try to figure out where we can go with this. Or like I said, if you guys want to consider it or have any thought right now, we can bounce around. I'll just kind of open that up, or we can wait for new business, if that'd be easier.
They're tag teaming, because I had a long conversation with Chris, too,
Oh,
about
you
the
did?
same thing, yeah.
Okay.
And it's fine, and it's just a challenge. I mean, it is on, and I don't want to make up excuses, but you see our volume of police calls and where, and fire, but police is increasing at that rate. And I mean, just, you got to mark tires, you got to witness it. I mean, it just becomes a huge challenge. I mean, it's just, if there was an easy solution, we would have tried to come up with it. It's just, it's difficult. And it, and it just goes back, and I've been doing this job for a long time now. I've had conversations dating all the way back to Bob Curley, and, and how businesses can do that when there's ample parking behind the buildings. And obviously, it's just what your priority in business is, right? If you have a business like that's quick in and out, you would never think about parking in front of people's business. But, Cindy was up here just talking when she opened up, and, it was just a business a few doors down was parking in front of her building, and working there all day. So it's a tough one, and I don't know, I don't know what would be more effective, like you said, meters or something like that, or just peer pressure through the business association, and that happens and that works some, but it's just a tough issue. I don't know.
Over the course of time, it kind of ebbs and flows, right? So I don't know what's driving it now, but that would be my first recommendation is, and I can certainly reach out to the business association with Judy and say, hey, because it's going to be very difficult to police. Can we kind of do something with the business association to just get the word out, say, what are you doing?
Right. And we did that with, that's what my recommendation to Chris was when I was talking to him, and, but then that puts him in a bad spot, right? I mean, it's uncomfortable, and you don't always know who it is. You think you know who it is, but yeah, I don't know if the business, if it's just a mailing, we can print out stuff for them, and it can be delivered, and it can just be talking about the importance of that. I don't know, but yeah, it's just not an easy issue. I mean, it sounds like it should be, but it's not. And it's been a problem that's going on for years and years and years.
It's kind of like keeping your yard maintained, right?
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's just some common courtesy, especially, because, I see the business area as a whole. I mean, they depend on each other to do the right thing, so all the businesses kind of survive and thrive up there. So if you're cutting off one business, if you're a business parking across the street or right close to your business out on the street, then you might be, you might cost your own business some extra patronage. So I don't know for the life of me why anybody would.
Yeah, Joe, it seems like it's common sense,
Yeah.
but sometimes that just doesn't apply, especially if your business is a different priority and you got to work 8 hours and there's a parking spot, and you don't have people coming in, bam, boom, I'm there, I'm done, and I don't have to worry about it. So, talk to them. We can help, but it's a.
Yeah, I understand it.
Yeah.
It would be, it's going to be hard to, what's going to happen? You're going to get a call. The police is going to get a call, and they're going to be on one of 100 different runs.
Right.
And that's
Right.
obviously is going to be a low priority,
A lot of
right?
times, then it's marking the tires,
Yes.
and then and even that there's questions on how that needs to be done nowadays. I mean, there's precedent with that. It's just sounds like it should be a simple issue, but it's not.
Yeah.
But it's not that we don't have to. I'd encourage
we'll-
you to
we'll
talk
deal
to
with it,
Kim,
right?
and,
Yeah.
and talk and come up with ideas. Because, yeah, I think that, you know, for a few people, meters might sound like a great idea, but you might find that for 80% of the people, that'd be horrible, right? You know, and so, you know, anyway.
Yep, no, I'm with you. I mean, especially around that area, because I can't believe the only thing I was thinking of, Bill, is, and the library isn't even open right now, so I don't think, you know, people are going there all day, right, because it is closed, so.
I know some of the properties are going to kind of a newer model for us, where they are dividing up the interior space almost as an incubator for businesses. So for
Yes.
people that are starting businesses, or, you know, can't afford or don't need to rent an entire building, they're sharing spaces. So I do think there's more office space, or space being used for offices than there was previously, and they're actually pretty high density. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, there's 10 businesses in one property, if a couple of them are parking out front and staying there.
Yeah, and at that point, we just have to, I would prefer to work through the business association first, if possible. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll have to obviously come back around and say, okay, we're going to be doing something.
Right.
So,
Because, you know, we worked with the Business Association a few years ago when we changed the parking regulations to 70, I mean, it's 72 hour, you know what I mean? So, because it was so all over the place.
Yeah.
And, so, yeah.
yep.
Mr.
Okay.
Parsons?
Off the top of my head, I think a time limit, if it can be enforced, is a good idea, but 15 minutes is definitely not. I mean, that might be good for Little Dutch, but if you're going into A&A Restaurant or Brotherton's, you're going to be 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't think we want this space 15 minutes, that space a half an hour, that space 2 hours. So, you know, we'll have to look at something like that. And as far as going to the business association to ask them, talk to their people, most of the business, well, a lot of the businesses in town aren't even members of the business association. So some of these people could be non-members.
Yeah, and that's fine. We'll work through it. And I'm sure we'll have a committee meeting. So I think it's
Looking forward
Denise,
to
you, and myself, right?
You and me and,
Yeah,
You're on all the committees, Denise.
yeah,
I'm not sure who the third one is.
I think it is. I think it's Denise,
Okay.
Bob, and myself. Yep.
Okay. Mayor, you're still on.
And that's it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. City Manager's Report, Mr. Coker.
All right, apologize in advance. I was gone last month, and there's a lot going on, so, but it's good stuff, a lot of it. The first thing I'll jump on is the priorities, and on your desk, you should have received a new street priority. I talked to Mr. Parsons, and we made some adjustments. About 2 years ago, JMA worked through some cost estimates to help us try to prioritize. And I needed to take, that was on like a Word or PDF document, and I wanted to get it in a spreadsheet, and I did some I didn't get everything on there, I think, as we had discussed. So the one I sent in the packet was a little off, but this, I think, gets us better clarity, and it gives us a working spreadsheet that we can work off of. Because this kind of ties into the next piece of this, is that there is skip funding process that we need to do, and we need to prioritize with that. Last year, we requested funding for for Adams, from Hamilton to Summit, and then Elizabeth and Hickman, the north sections of those, and it finally did get funded, and the process is starting. So that does take care of those three. Our second priority last year that did not get funded, scored decently but didn't get funded on a 20% match, was Madison Avenue from Park to Forest, then Forest Avenue 200 feet south to Stevens to the south terminus is how it was
I got
funded.
excited because the one in my packet says from Hamilton. Our street
Yeah,
is so bad, the neighbors are complaining
Right.
constantly, so.
yep.
Darn it.
So, I mean, that is part of, there is Madison up there, well, the Hamilton to Harrison, and then the Perry to Elizabeth side of Madison as well. But, so I guess what we need to do is is determine if we want to, if it was a priority 2 last year, since we got the priority 1 funded, does that move up to the priority 1 for this year? And then we need to identify a second priority. And like we've always said, this is kind of a moving target. I know there's been a lot of discussion. I know I've received a lot of emails on Compton, especially after the water line, and that's a heavily traveled road. But, you know, whatever our second priority is, obviously one input from council. Greg added some other streets that we got to start to get on our radar as well.
I got a question.
Yes.
We had talked too about doing a combination of Warner and Madison, but I don't see that on here.
Warner and Madison.
Yeah, between Stevens.
Is that the Compton to the south terminus?
Is that?
So Warner would, Compton to the south terminus would be all of Warner,
Okay.
right? So that's what's left, because from Warner North, it was done already. So I think what we did, I think it was broken up, so we just kind of tied it all together. I think that's how they talked about it on the, I think on the JMA project.
Doesn't make sense that all the streets around that one strip of Madison are done with that. And it's awful.
JMA had Madison from Harrison to Werner as one of their projects,
Right.
but it wasn't connected with Werner, but it very easily could be.
I think we talked about maybe possibly connecting it, because it would
Yeah, when we get,
better.
yeah, when that project comes around.
So,
Yeah, to pick, you know, we definitely want to make sure we pick up those small legs. That's what we're doing on Hickman and Elizabeth this year. So, is there any thoughts on, do we continue with, move the second priority up from last year as to a priority this year? Is there anything that's taking bigger precedent over that? And do you guys have any input for a second priority?
you heard mine.
I think the Madison Avenue should move up to first priority, and I'm not sure on some of these streets, I don't travel them much, to move into second. I agree.
Yeah,
Bob, you,
Well, I was going to let Joe go ahead.
no, again, we can have, when we're talking about parking, we can talk about this if we want to do that first before.
We don't have, I mean, we got to submit our applications by September.
So he didn't really put a day in his or a deadline.
Well, we have to do an ordinance that we have to do it, and then
Okay.
it says in his, doesn't it, it talks about,
It says that the submittal date will not, is the third Friday in September, will not be feasible this year in his letter. So I don't know how much time we have, but yeah, we can be ready for the first meeting in September if that's okay. Or is that too late?
no, I mean, not at all. I mean, we'd have to pass an ordinance, if we don't have it by September, the first meeting in September, we'd have to pass it by, I guess what I don't want to do is them say, okay, now, yeah, it's September 30th, right? Maybe the third week, whatever he said in his letter. I just want to get it ready. I mean, because we
So-
have to pass an ordinance authorizing it, so we want to get that going.
Yes, no, I understand.
Yeah. But
Because-
yeah, if you guys want to have a meeting prior to our September 1st meeting and come back with a recommendation, that's great.
Yeah, because in here he says, we do know that the historic application date of the third Friday in September will not be feasible this year. So our second meeting in September will be before the third Friday.
Right.
So we may just have to do, a one reading.
Emergency.
Is what I
pass
was
as
thinking.
emergency. That's fine. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
Well, my opinion, we move the Madison Stevens, or Madison
Forrest.
Forest up to number 1. And we also apply for Compton, since so many people are complaining about that. And that's only a grind and overlay for the most part.
Right.
It's a smaller dollar project, probably still $800,000, I think.
800 to a million. And the good news is they did just get the water line upgraded on that, so it doesn't, but that's part of what I think is making it worse now too with the trench
Yes.
line and so forth. But yeah, I think in 2018, when they gave us an estimate of 800,000 to do Compton, which, I think the Adams Road project, when it's a reconstruction, that's about $1.3 million. So it is significantly less, but it still would qualify for skip.
Yeah.
So, But if the committee wants to talk about that and let us know by the 1st, that's fine. We can turn the ordinance around, and have
Yeah.
it ready for the 15th
And I don't
get it
disagree with
passed.
what Bob's saying, especially Madison, because if you look at, well, you know how Madison cuts and cuts and cuts. You know, I think pretty much all of Madison is,
Not my section.
This is just a piece from
We're not going to do your section.
Park to Stevens.
yeah.
My neighbors, and I am a resident, so I
Yeah.
can say something.
You have to set yourself out now.
And by the way, we will be doing Hamilton Avenue, probably in 21.
Yes.
Yeah, so that could be three projects if we would happen to win both of those that we bid on.
The Hamilton Avenue project is something as we get closer that we're gonna have to, because that could be, you know, they're gonna maybe even look at that as skip too, as at least part of it, so, but that wouldn't be to the next funding cycle. But we need to get priorities for this year.
So then we're going to let the committee,
Yep,
Go
they're gonna
over
let
this?
us know on September 1st.
yeah, okay,
That is the next council meeting, right?
yes.
That is. All right, that's just one, guys. We'll keep it moving here. The other thing in your packet was a lot of information about a Family Dollar that is looking to go into the location in front of Hilltop, which was at one time the old McDonald's. No zoning issues there. This is a permitted use. When we first received the proposal from the developer and the owner, it's a joint district between, it's a joint venture between the current owner of Hilltop and the developer. This was kind of a bone of contention for everybody, and that was the side of in the building department, especially Gordon, was, I don't know if you see many of these Family Dollars. The front of them has a facade, but pretty much the rest of it is a metal building. I mean, I'd even go as far as saying looks kind of like a pole barn. And so the configuration of that lot, the building is going to face to the north. So the side of the building that would be with the most exposure on Hamilton Avenue would look like a blank metal building. So from the beginning, Gordon went back and forth, and man, I got a lot of phone calls on my, the owner of the Hilltop has my cell phone, and we went, just government not letting us, and so finally we came to, he kind of understood what we were saying. It's like, look, Gordon's just doing his job. We're not going to allow a building that faces Hamilton Avenue, even though it's not the front of the building, to look like a blank metal side. So they, I think, came up with, these aren't actual windows. They'll look like a window with an awning, because the configuration in the store, they need that wall space and whatever. But it's going to look much better than a metal building that you see, which they originally proposed. I've also included, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I've also included, a landscape plan and what they're trying to do. I mean, even the mayor and I talked, I mean, I think the Family Dollar that was in the store down there got a lot of use. I mean, this does provide even, some groceries and things that are definitely void in that area for people, not only that live in Mount Healthy, but live right outside of Mount Healthy that frequent that area. So I can see the need there, and I think that they've come far enough that, that Gordon and I wanted to share this with you guys, but Gordon will tell him we can move forward with it. But anyway, I wanted to bring it in, and I gave you plenty of time to look at it, and then if you guys have any questions, because I know this created a lot of questions before, just, I think, very different location, so.
Bill, the side view, side elevation is showing a block building. Is that what they're going to do?
Just that side, and
That
it
side.
kind of ties in with the front.
All right.
It will tie in with the front with what they do.
Okay.
The back and the east side of the building will be
Still
metal.
Yeah, okay.
But you'll see the back driving. north on.
You will see a little bit of that. There is, I mean, you'll see that, it's a loading area, so a lot of that's gonna be, you know, doors and different things. There is a little bit of, you know, but it's an awkward lot, you know, it is. And I mean, the dumpster's gonna be there, so, yeah, you will see some of that, but it does set back off a little bit, so.
Oh, yeah,
There's-
you can see it better on this drawing.
They're
Yeah.
seating it almost exactly like McDonald's was.
I think that's probably the only way you can
Yeah.
to make it
Yeah.
work.
Oh, I think
So-
Gordon did a great job then. Then you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That side.
Yeah, you can see, I mean, Denise, there is a little bit of landscape there on
Yeah, I
the
did see that.
south, that corner of the building that will help block that a little bit.
That's true.
No, I think Gordon did do a good job, got a lot of heat from this, but they came around, I think, worked with it. So I just wanted to share this with everybody. There's no planning commission review, there's no zoning any issues like we had with the last one. This is just more kind of professional courtesy, saying, hey, guys, this is gonna happen, just wanted to share with you, and if you got any questions or comments, you know, definitely would share it with them, but,
I do have one question. Their front entrance, it's the windows and the front doors going across it, right?
this picture here.
Yes, in this picture. The question I have is, so how long before everything but the front windows have got casing in front of it for, you know, for shelves for what they're, you know, for what they're selling, and you don't have a good view in if you're the police department or something like that, so.
Yeah, I mean, that, you
Because
know,
a lot of Family Dollars, I mean, I've been in a handful of them where, you know, the only thing that's open pretty much eventually is just the front door. So,
yeah, that was a topic we discussed a lot in the whole zoning rewrite, you know? And again, that one's, there's a lot of that goes on uptown. Heck, when we do the Christmas stuff, there was a lot of the windows that are painted. Brotherton's has a lot of stuff on their windows. You know,
yeah,
so
but
it's,
that's, I mean, that's a big difference, right? I mean, they're holiday decorations, okay, versus.
Brotherton's does a lot of painting. I think, you know, I don't know. It's just, I mean, that's addressed more of a zoning thing than really beforehand. You know what I mean? It can be addressed. It's just, you start enforcing things, you know, and it, you're right. There's definitely for police, they want to have clear visibility to get in a situation, and fire. And you can, if you want to enforce those kinds of things, you can. There's got to be, and it's a percentage, we talked in a great deal about it, and you'll, believe it or not, you will. I mean, we're back meeting on the zoning stuff, and that'll be part of the whole zoning rewrite, and that is addressed in our zoning code, the percentage of visibility that you should have on a storefront. So, really outside of, you know, this now, and I'm sure, just like you said, it's probably
Okay.
dependent store from store, right?
Yeah, I just, you know, I know they're limited on square feet, and I know they want as much shelf space as possible, and that's what happens.
Any more questions or comments on this? The other topic that I wanted to share, kind of, you know, all right, Pastor Levy, right? You know, what's next, right? When are we hiring everybody, right? When's this getting going? What's, you know? So even took it a few steps back, and I just kind of wanted just to share this with council, so that a few years down the road, you find out, wait a minute, I didn't know that we even had an option to consider. And really, one of the first things that I started thinking about when we said, okay, what's the next step in the hiring process? There's a classified and an unclassified employee that works at the city. I'm unclassified. Melanie's unclassified. We're kind of at-will employees. Classified right now mainly are the police department. Any member of the police department, with the exception of the chief. And that's evolved over time, and I've had a lot of conversations with this lately, and like, if when I worked here in the early 90s, or even when I started back, that Bill Coker would have had one opinion on civil service, as it has changed and evolved over time, and I think a lot of it's good, but I'm really going to simplify this. But when you look at it, there's two things that are addressed in here with a classified employee and unclassified employee, two major things, and that's the hiring process and the firing process is really what civil service kind of addresses. in great detail through the Ohio Revised Code. We have our own civil service rules, which I included in here. So if you're a classified employee, that is very much covered, right? Unclassified is not. Maybe an easier hiring process, maybe an easier firing process, which brings good and bad things along with it as well. So I started the conversation with our new law director, and he sent out some questions, and there's one kind of asterisk to all of this, which everybody I've talked to, and I believe this will happen, and I don't have a problem with this. This is just part of the process. Probably from the 1 year from the day that we get our fire department full-time members, the 7 members hired and running, the union will be looking to come in, okay? And that's a process that will allow to happen. Maybe the new employees won't vote it in, but there's probably a pretty good probability. I got to say, probably almost 100% of the full-time departments in Hamilton County are covered by the union. So that kind of addresses what the firing process, discipline process, those kinds of things that a classified employee would address, right? So it's kind of a moot point in a way, because I think because maybe I didn't explain. So we have a choice. Right now the firefighters would be classified unless I recommend to council and you guys approve that they become unclassified. So that's kind of the crux of this discussion tonight. And so I vetted this and waited out to try to determine. I think if there wasn't a union possibility, I definitely think that an unclassified route might have been a good way to take. It gives you some flexibility. However, I have learned, and we've learned over time, that the process you go through with a classified hire when we hire the police department, I think is a very good process now. It used to be a rule of 3 where you would test and you could only hire the top 3 candidates. That was kind of hit or miss. Now it's the top 10. So that gives us a lot of flexibility, whether we can always have a list of 10 candidates from our civil service to pick from. And we can go through that list, interview, decide, for any legitimate reason why we don't want somebody or hire within that group. And actually, I think having a test is a good thing, because you can draw people in and you can get good qualified people. So Bill Coker 20 years ago would have said, hey, let's go unclassified. It gives us more flexibility. I think Bill Coker today, my recommendation is to make these classified, have the civil service give the test, hire these people with our civil service rules, because within a year, I'm pretty confident that a union's going to be in here and it's going to address the discipline issues, the firing issues, and all the other issues that, are issues, or I don't want to call them issues, or just articles that help clarify all that process, right? It's not always issues. It's articles within a contract that will help clarify how the process needs to be handled, whether it's a firing, a discipline, how, which holidays are going to be addressed, how they're going to be addressed, how overtime is going to be addressed. Boy, because I tell you, man, overtime with the fire department is just going to be a whole other animal. Melanie, you're pulling your hair out, I'm telling you, because just for us to even try to work through these schedules, and what schedule we think is a good recommendation is, gosh, you gotta have a degree from NASA, man. It's tough. But anyway, we're working our way through it. So when I'm here, my recommendation, so I guess this process would be, I would recommend to council, if we wanted to go unclassified, I don't think I'm going to make that recommendation, because I think having these classified as the testing process is the way to go. So, but we can open this up for more discussion. I know this is a lot of information. I tried to put this together in the packet for you guys to have some time to review. And I don't know, Mary, if you have any, I know you've had a lot of experience with this, if you have anything else that you'd like to add, or.
No, I really think, you're the one that has to deal with this the most, so I trust Bill's judgment on this.
Mm-hmm. Does everybody kind of understand what we're talking about here? Ross, you were mayor at one time. It's just changed over time.
Yes.
And if I thought that these folks, that there wasn't going to be a union, I think that I would have maybe made that recommendation, because then we could have created, our own rules and fair rules, but they're going to kind of be created through the contract anyway. And I've seen it can come back to haunt you, because a lot of times if you rely on just your pool of part-timers to hire, you know, that's great as long as you have a good, strong pool of part-timers, right? But sometimes, you know, you don't. You've had a lot of, because what happens in the part-time ranks, all the good ones leave quickly, right? And you'd love to be able to hire them if you had a full-time position, but you can't always do that. So a lot of times over time, you know, and that's not always the case, but, you know, a lot of times if you're down to a couple part-timers that have been here for 5 years, believe me, they're probably looking for a full-time job. They just haven't been able to find one, you know, and there's probably maybe reasons behind that. But boom, if you have an opening and that's your precedent that you set, you could get yourself into trouble. So that's why I like the civil service classified hiring process. We'll get with civil service. They'll do a test. We'll recruit, you know, try to get as many people in. We've done a lot of things, you know, even within the police department, just kind of a refresher. You know, we try to get the most diverse population to come in to take our tests. We recruit on Indeed that a lot of people use, but, you know, one of the things that we've done, and even in the police forces, at first we required everybody to be OPATA certified, which is the course that everybody takes to become a police officer, right? Well, you eliminate 99% of the population or higher, 99 point whatever, if you make that requirement. So we don't have that requirement anymore. So we just try to do things to open it up as much as we can to get a good group of candidates in here, a diverse group of candidates, gender, you know, everything. So to try to hire our pool of folks. So our civil service rules, you know, there are things in there that will benefit people. You know, the military has always been there. Having a bachelor's degree will apply and give additional points to candidates. Associate's degree will do it as well. Plus, we have in there that part-time folks will get a point. So we do want to, recognize a person that's been loyal and worked here for 2 or 3 years, especially in the fire department. You know, they'll get additional points too. So I think it's a fair way of going about it. So, any other questions or comments or?
My comment would be that I don't understand all the innuendos of this process, but I got faith in what you've been doing here for years, and I think we'll follow you. And I would recommend we go with the, you know,
classified process.
Classified.
All of our full-timers will be classified employees, yep.
Yes, we're dealing with that now with the police department. You have the same rules then that guide both departments. You're gonna have rules this way over here, and this group,
Yep.
this group has a different set of rules.
Good point, yep.
So, you know, it'd make the whole thing, running it much easier, I believe.
All right, and the main reason I wanted to have this, that's something, it's like, all right, hey, we're starting something new, right? I just didn't want people to find out, wait a minute, I didn't realize, because in our charter, there's kind of a catch-all that's was included in your packet that says, hey, you know, or any others as recommended by the mayor or manager approved by the council. And I just didn't want that to come up down the road. Say, hey, I never realized we had that opportunity, you know, so we just kind of wanted to vet it tonight, so.
I like the idea.
Okay.
Yes. I agree. I like the idea of testing. I'm not sure on the bonus points for a firefighter, if associate's degree or bachelor's degree really applies.
I mean, there's fire science degrees, there's people,
Well-
you know, you want to eventually hopefully hire people that will be in the management.
Yeah,
You know,
well, okay.
that could be long-term, you know.
I would
mean,
see maybe somebody who's been through a fire training, like the city of Cincinnati's training, or years of experience might get extra points and stuff.
It doesn't get into that. I mean, yeah, I guess why we did that in the police department, you know, was we were trying to, you know, when we changed to the charter, you know, one of the requirements for the police chief was to have a bachelor's degree, you know, and so I would hope that we're going to kind of follow that line, and we'd like to see some people. And when we went to hire our last police chief, none of the folks in the police department had a degree. So I think that's good. Not that a degree is a be-all, end-all, you know. And at the end of the day, too, you can't and I don't recall off the top of my head, you can't pile all these. You can't have a person that's a 5-year part-timer that has a bachelor's degree, was also in the military. I mean, already start with 100 and some point, you know what I mean? So it caps the number of points that you can do too. So anyway, but.
Anybody else?
I trust what you laid out.
Thanks.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. And just one other side note, we talked a little bit in this finance committee, so it'll be a little bit of a repeat with them. You know, the other thing that we have to try to figure out soon here is the levy is going to allow us to have 5 people on, which is really going to make sure we can, talked about. Right now, our quarters only sleep 4 people, and we knew that going in. And there's a plan to take part of the chief's office and make that an officer's quarter sleeping area. Obviously, that's going to be some costs associated with that. Just this week, community development came out with COVID funding that can be used for facilities for fire and EMS. So it's like ding ding. So we're gonna work with them to apply to get funding to upgrade the facilities and do some upgrades in the existing area, plus add on what's there. And while we're doing that, we may end up moving our police clerk up to the mayor's office. That office is underutilized. We'll get him in a new space, and I think it'll just create. We're always struggling for space around here. So hopefully we get that funded, and we've reached out to a lot of local contractors as well. So just wanted to add that. Those are kind of the first things that we're working on. Later, we'll get with civil service to get a test going, and then we'll start that process.
I assume you need job description and qualifications
Oh, yeah.
and everything before
Yeah.
you do that. Yeah.
Right. And in that CBDG thing, there was also we are on the cusp of our next 3 years of funding for the community development grant. Gosh, it just seems like that comes right back around.
Yeah, we just did that.
We just did that. We're actually, Melanie, we're in our 3rd year of receiving funds for because look where we were 3 years ago. I mean, we put all of our priority in our fire department and got because we get 35 a year, right, Melanie? So we got $105,000 to help fund our department. So obviously that need will go away, which is good. So the process is pretty unique in that, there's several public hearings and all that stuff. Obviously, with what's going on, I don't see that happening. But we do need to think of a priority for what our next funding is, whether it's I know there's been discussions with, do we refocus on the main theater? We've done a lot of work in our parks, so we do need to kind of think about that, give me some suggestions, and sorry, man, I thought I had this off. My apologies. So anyway, just keep that we got to get that going. And usually that time frame is later in the fall. So, I know you, a little bit of, are we okay with the nighttime work on Hamilton Avenue? I just want to make sure we.
What's that do for cost? Are they paying double time or anything?
I hate to say this, but it's 100% fund. They're funding it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be wasteful, but I'm sure there'll be some, but there's safety concerns and traffic flow concerns.
The safety is what I'm concerned
Yeah,
about.
right, exactly. Okay. Okay, so the good news is the school continues to work on the, I'm going to make sure I have this off. I'm sorry, guys, 'cause I don't want that to happen again. The school continues to work, and it looks like it's going, it's going forward with the Learning Center back on Adams, at the end of Adams Road, right before you go into Springfield Township. The old Rex Ralph building. And the project cost is around $9 million. And so we've had some precedent with this. In the upside is you're going to have a lot of teachers working there, higher paid teachers. Not just, a lot of what you get, I know in daycare, sometimes they're just minimum wage workers. They'll be, it'll be a good positive for the city. But when we did the school projects, I mean, those were $100 million. The $9 million project back there would yield about a $52,000 to $53,000 permit from this paid to the city. And so, there's precedent. We modified that for the South project and for the high school project. And by no means am I saying it should be free, because there's pass-through costs, we have to pay the state, and we have to cover our employee costs, because Gordon and Bill will spend time on this. And talking to them, they figured that about 25% of that project cost would be, of the permit cost can be applied. You know, the formula is just based on construction. I mean, we don't have a lot of big construction projects. So it came up at one of our meetings, and I said I would discuss it with council. Is that something we want to work with them on, or do we want to say, sorry, you owe us the whole amount? I mean, you know, a lot of times what ends up happening is, all right, if they got to take 40,000, you know, if the net on that is $40,000, they've got a cap on what they can spend on the project. They're going to take it out somewhere. And if the project is good, and we're not going to see property tax increase there, but we're going to see income tax increase from there, I think it's a good thing. So I don't know. I throw that out and open that up for discussion.
Income tax is zero right now, so,
Income tax is zero.
so, yeah, and you're gonna have teachers, janitors, et cetera, all kinds of
Yeah.
employees. And we worked with them on the schools. I recommend we work with them in some way on this project too.
I agree we work with them, but I think we should sit down and try to calculate what we're going to spend and what's going to go to the state and pass through and blah, 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 and come up with a better number, not just say 25%.
Well, I mean, we did. I didn't just pull that number out of. So there's the plan review was, and we can get to your point. Yes, we can get more definitive, but it wasn't just what do you guys think? 25%. I mean, there's the plan review costs that we actually pay at because there has to be a licensed architect that stamps their plans. That's going to be $2,000 to $3,000. That will go to cover that. Their time, the state costs, Gordon. But yeah, I can absolutely come up with a solid number. Our hours, our time, this, that, the other. Boom. Yeah.
I didn't know where the 25%
Yeah.
came from, but
It
if
was-
you've done some of that,
Yeah.
then that's a good start, yeah.
Okay, good. But we can get more detail.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the most I would want to charge them is their cost, because historically, we've had a pretty good partnership with the schools, so.
Right. Okay.
And any dollar of labor that they can bring in is greatly appreciated.
Sure.
And they went out, you know, when they built the schools and all that with the annexation and everything, I mean, I think that's the least we could do to
Yeah.
help them with that, definitely.
Great. Okay. Well, I tell you what. Before we agree to anything, what I'll do is I'll have Bill and Gordon work up an exact amount of their time, what we're going to do, and what that permit, and I'll share it with council, and then I'll present it to the school. Great.
Good.
Getting close. So we continue to partner with the port on acquiring properties. The latest we acquired was one on Rugg Street. Joe, what was the name? Some of the old timers here.
So-
Mr.
So he was a landmark.
Diphthong?
Diphthong.
Yeah.
It was an old row house.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Spoons. It was an old row house, really small. Before we demoed it, we actually talked with a neighbor over there who thought he could be interested in maybe trying to rehab it. The guy that came to demo it asked if he could possibly do it. Everybody worked up numbers, and it just didn't make sense on the size of it. So eventually, the port demoed it. Before we got access, or before we acquired it, they cleared the title, and we got that. And at the same time, we got 7866 Seward, which has an existing building. It's the white brick that sits right next to Adams Road on Seward. Decent looking on the outside. However, when we got into it on the inside, it is a mess. It is full of garbage, full hoarding situation. But I've had the port has obviously continued to grow to do a lot of things. And I don't know if anybody remembers Deborah Robb. She was the one that kind of led up the window project we've done. Deborah's done some different projects. She has ties to Mount Healthy. She said she drives by that house every day, and she knows we're getting it. She'd already reached out to me and said, Bill, I'd love, if council's willing, because the port has become pretty aggressive with acquiring the properties that they can, rehabbing them, to completely, from clearing the title to rehabbing, touching every part of the house that needs addressed and selling it to a first-time homeowner. And even sometimes have done some new because this year they alone, even during COVID, have done 15 rehabs and are doing 2 new constructions. So I like to partner with them. I'm going to. There was an old Subaru parked in that house for years. We've towed that to get a salvage title so I can get that cash to clean out the property. Hopefully we can cover most of our costs in doing that. I'm thinking that, hey, look, if they're going to take this on and rehab it and get it in there, I mean, I'd like to recoup our money back, which was somewhere probably between $1,000 to $1,500. If we could get that back, I think that's a good partnership, and they can just run with it. So unless there's any other, we did a dollar home on Adams. We started it and we ended up finishing it with Herc, and I think that was still was a good project. We just don't have the, they have the resources now. I mean, they gave me 3 numbers of contractors that they said will give us a much better quote than what we got from our first quote to clean out the property. So I think there'll be a good partnership. They are already a good partnership with the acquisitions that we've done. So unless there's any.
Keep working with them.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I'd rather have an owner-occupied home than an empty lot.
Right, that's full of garbage, yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, so, okay. Then the last thing is that at our next meeting, we go back to 2 meetings. We're going to continue, I think, right now until we get a better feel, although it sounds like we're playing football in Ohio, which is a good thing, right? We'll have a limit, a shortened council meeting, have a work session. I'd like to bring in our new law director, Scott Solomon, because there's been a lot of discussion on 2 things, mainly on we've had a lot of requests lately or discussions about parades and marches and group gatherings that we've worked with the folks, and most of them, everything's gone off fine. But there needs to be a process in that. Cincinnati has can you imagine what the process is for whoever puts on the opening day parade? I'm not saying we're going to have that kind of a process, but we do need to have a fair process for everybody that comes here. Here's some of the things that you need to do, right? So, he's going to come in and kind of talk about that, and maybe at the same time, the other item on the agenda I want to start to talk about is where's our comfort level, because we've got BZA hearings that the folks at the trailer parks are wanting to know when they can get back in here, when can we start having public meetings. I don't know if we'll have clarity yet by September 1st, but I definitely think we need to start talking about it. So that's just kind of a heads up of what I'd like to talk at the work session. And that is it tonight.
Okay. They would have to have they'd have to meet the same requirements we meet here with the thing and so forth. I mean, that's.
Yeah, and some of those are so difficult because, I don't know, 300, if they have to notify people within 300 feet on Hamilton Avenue, that could be a whole lot of people, that could be few people, or nobody could even show up. I don't know. I mean, those are the challenges that we're going to have.
Yes.
I think Scott can kind of he's given us a little bit of feedback on, even on the park. We've gotten a lot of great feedback on the stuff in the park, and there's opinions out there that, hey, what we should be, but that's outside. It's you can space out good. This would be a little different. So those will be the 2 topics on the work session agenda.
Okay, super. Any questions for Mr. Coker? Okay, moving on then. Finance Director, Mr. Bauer. Oh, come on. Can't you just tell us at least we got your stuff in the packet? Oh, okay. All right, we have ordinances and resolutions. We have the second reading of an ordinance. It's ordinance number 20-1914. An ordinance assessing costs for the replacement of the private lead service lines and declaring an emergency. You still have that ordinance?
Yep.
From last meeting? This is a very good thing to help the program that get these lead lines out of people's homes.
I make a motion to adopt 20-1914.
Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt.
I second that.
Mr. Parsons has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 5-0, ordinance number 20-1914 is adopted. We have no second readings on resolutions. We do have a first reading on ordinances, a couple of them.
We always have one.
First one, I assume they're numbered in your packet, is ordinance number 20-1915, an ordinance assessing cost of the removal of high grass and weeds and declaring an emergency. Do you want to do this in one reading?
Yes.
Mr. Coker, so that it gets to the
That'd be great.
courthouse?
I make a motion to suspend the 2 reading rule.
Mr. Redding has made a motion to suspend.
I'll second.
Mr. George has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, two reading rule has been suspended with a 5-0 vote. Any discussion?
Isn't it 6-0?
6-0, yeah.
6-0, not 5.
6-0, I'm sorry.
I make a motion to adopt ordinance 20-1915.
Mr. Redding has made a motion to adopt.
I second that.
Mr. Parsons, second.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 6-0. Ordinance 20-1915 is adopted. Next ordinance, an ordinance assessing cost of the vacant foreclosed property registration fee and declaring an emergency. Ordinance number 20-1916.
Mr. Coker, what property is this?
That's what I was-
It's at the bottom, isn't it?
7861 Hamilton.
It's at the very bottom.
I'm sorry?
I know, but
It's at the very bottom.
Where is that?
I know the
What is it?
number, address, but I mean, is it a business or just a house or what?
Oh, I don't.
7861 Hamilton.
on my phone, I'd look it up.
I got it.
7861 is gonna be.
Sure, 7861.
Should be somewhere across from the dairy bar or something.
Yeah. I couldn't find it. It's the Mark Madison property. It's the
That's across from the dairy bar,
Yeah,
close to Adams.
just
Near
north.
Starworth's?
Let me
Starworks
find the
and
photo.
Okay,
Just north-
okay.
Yeah, it's a white building.
Yeah.
next- 2 doors south of Animal Ark, across from Walgreens.
Okay.
It's a white building with a big front porch, says like
I know.
MMC.
They were gonna have a coffee shop in there or something years ago, a couple years ago?
I think you're right. I think
Yeah.
that's close.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's just empty.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we waive the 2 reading rule.
I second that motion.
You two are on a roll. Okay, motion to suspend a 2 reading rule is made by Mr. Parsons, second by Mr. Redding. Roll call.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, any discussion on this? Everybody understands remember what this is about?
So this is vacant foreclosed, so it's both
Yeah.
vacant and foreclosed, and then that they have to register with it. That's just not vacant. It has to, both of those have to apply.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance
Okay,
20-1916.
And I'll second.
Mrs. Lingo has made a motion to adopt. Mr. George has seconded.
Mrs. Lingo,
Aye.
Mrs. Moody, Mr. Parsons.
Aye.
Ms. Peterson,
Aye.
Mr. Redding,
Aye.
Mrs. Dosa,
Aye.
Mr. George.
Aye.
Okay, by a vote of 6-0, ordinance number 20-1916 is adopted. We have no first reading on any resolutions, so we move to old business, council.
I think it is just worth noting that with those final levy results, that we actually increased our lead after the provisionals came in. It was only 3-vote increase, but more yeses came in than noes even on the provisionals, so that's good.
I was very pleased, a little surprised, but very pleased.
It was just,
Mr. Parsons?
just put it out there.
Along the same lines, I would like to thank the residents of the city of Mount Healthy for supporting the fire department.
Absolutely.
I think we did a good job with having the meetings early in the year, the public hearings, finding out what the public wanted, and then going forward, mayor and the fire chief both sent out letters to all the voters. And they responded. They came out and they voted, and we passed it. We even had people outside of the city that were pushing for it, I guess. Laureen Zapp down in North College Hill came out on next door urging people to get out and vote, and they came out and they voted and they passed it, and we can thank Laureen for that. So I'm glad it passed.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you, sir.
Yes.
Any other old business, council? New business? Mr. Redding?
The street committee meeting, for Denise and Bob, are you guys open to doing that this Thursday, the 20th?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, 6 o'clock?
Sure.
Is that enough time? Right, 48 hours, right? So notification for the public?
No, I don't know.
I can email her right now.
Well, I guess, okay. So 6 o'clock on the 20th, we're having a street and safety committee meeting.
Here in Chambers?
Yes, here in council chambers.
Is there anything else going on Thursday?
Ooh, I don't know if there's,
Court?
court is Thursday night.
Court is Thursday night?
Yeah,
Is,
but I don't know if it's this Thursday
I
night.
don't
They've
think
had a
it's-
lot in a row. I know they had
This
one,
past Thursday was canceled.
but it was canceled, so I wonder if they moved it up. I don't know.
is there court Monday night?
You guys want to, use the, you can use the
We
community
can use
room?
the community room? Yeah,
Because that, I think during court, they use that room. But
Okay.
you could use the community room.
okay, let's do the community room then. 6 o'clock? Do we want to check with Ray first?
I don't know, Melanie, can you, I mean, if we check much long, I mean, if we've got to give a 48-hour notice, I mean, we're already pushing it.
Okay, well then, let's shoot.
Let's do it Monday. Can you do it Monday?
I can do it Monday, the 24th, yep.
Okay, that works. Then we're good. And we'll confirm, I don't think, I mean, we don't usually have anything on Monday nights, but you could do it here then.
I'm looking at it
Oh, you are?
online. Assuming this
yeah.
is accurate, there's nothing on Mondays.
Okay. There's
Okay.
nothing on Mondays, but there's nothing in here on Mondays, so whatever you guys want to do.
Okay,
So here.
so, yep.
Might be
street com-
easier, because somebody would have to come and get a key, and it would probably be easier to do it here.
Yep, so street committee meeting, Monday, August 24th at 6 PM at City Hall, council chambers.
Correct.
Okay, other new business, council?
It was kind of mentioned before, but we start 2 meetings again in September, and our first one is actually September 1st.
Yes.
So I'm sure you'll get the packet that weekend, but some of you might be surprised.
Denise?
Joe, I was going to talk to you anyway, but I don't know how busy we're going to be with that other stuff. I was approached last month by a resident on Bernard, I don't know if you saw that email or not, about the speeding. I know that Bill and the chief have been working with them, but apparently we have a lot of issues with speeding and going through stop signs in the city lately. Keisha, I
Yep.
think you had something on St. Clair, right?
Corner of St. Clair and Hickman.
And Park Avenue, what'd you say, Adams, people are speeding. So I don't know if we could maybe do a discussion in the safety committee.
Sure.
sometime, you know, what we think we could possibly do to help.
Yeah.
I know the person on Bernard, he's getting a petition to have something done, but.
Right.
We all have the same problem, no matter
Right, we
what
do.
part of the
That's
city
why I
you
think
live in.
it should be
Right.
addressed, because everybody's having these issues.
You know, a lot of everybody that, and I'm not being sarcastic. I mean, there was a very serious wreck on Clovernook the other night. It was a hit and run. You know, it was at almost midnight, and no injuries. At least we know of. The person ran, so we don't know. But a lot of times, people's first reaction is they want speed bumps, and almost every email I get, that's the solution. And administratively, we've always said that that's not a good solution for a lot of reasons. I mean, there are studies out there. I'm sure there's studies that'll show positive and negatives, but there are studies that show out there. Sometimes it actually increases speeding because people have to slow down so much to go over it, and then they speed up to get to the next one and slow down, and they're focused on that, and they're not paying attention. I'm not saying there's not a speeding problem. What we did on Bernard after all this stuff, we you know, a lot of times for us, and I encourage residents to do this all the time, is we just don't start randomly patrolling areas. We have a process that the police department goes through based on complaints and different things, and that helps us set our priorities when we do patrol. So I always encourage people, don't just call. I mean, even though you don't think you're gonna be hurt, it helps, because if they get their calls, they can prioritize that, and then every morning at roll call, these are the priorities, if they can get to that if other things aren't going on, right? So Bernard became a priority after some of this information was received. We actually moved some of the patrol, speed limit signs on Bernard. They weren't at a good location, so we kind of have them now spread out better. And then we also relocated the digital sign that shows the people's speed on there, you know. So I know that that's probably not going to solve everything, but that's typically how we react. We don't react by every time somebody wants a speed bump. I mean, they're very expensive. There's maintenance. There's just a lot of other issues.
See, going down a hill, you might go flying.
Yeah,
That's speed
you know.
bump.
So,
Hard.
but that's kind of like, it kind of becomes kind of like the parking thing. If people are speeding on your street, like Keisha and I talked, I mean, you don't care when they're speeding by and you're out there playing with your kids. It's scary, right? And we don't, you know, but when we know about these things, we can, you know, because I think I told you, right? Email the chief, right? Let them know, because that's a good thing, because then we have a record of, hey, why are you patrolling this specific area? Because we've gotten multiple complaints, and that is always helpful too.
And I
So,
want to thank you and the chief for doing
Yeah.
that for him.
sure.
So, okay, that's it.
Any other new business, council? Ms. Lingo,
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
we have a motion to adjourn. Seconded by Mr. Cordell. George? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.